Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by Chris.
Hello.
I feel like every episode I'm with one of you guys now. Dave, Sam,
It's
now you, Chris.
Rotational crew here, big crew.
I know. I feel like every episode's a different voice joining me. So
I mean, it's a lot better than having like 5 of us on a single episode. That's a fucking nightmare.
I enjoy having when I have more than one of you guys on it. But we're going to be talking Stranger Things in this episode. This is probably our only Stranger Things. Was that your attempt at the music?
That was my music. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, it was not very good. I was like, wait, what are you doing? But yeah, this is...
Sorry, I don't have a synthwave mouth.
Yo, use your tongue as a keyboard. Yeah, this is probably going to be our only show talking about this show, because there isn't a lot of Halloween goodness in this show.
Yeah.
Just one
it's spooky.
season, kind of.
Yeah.
Season 2, which is what we're going to be focusing on a little bit later. But for the most part, you know, it's just more of a nostalgic journey through these characters is what the show is. I'm sure most people that listen to our show watch the show. I don't think I've met anyone that's like, I don't watch Stranger Things. I don't think that exists.
No. It is the best Netflix show of all time.
It is the Netflix show. I really think that.
Oh yeah.
I don't. It's weird because it's about to end. I think after the 5th season. That's their final season.
As will my Netflix subscription.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like I'm surprised they're not milking it. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a spinoff of some kind. I don't know.
Yeah.
What they're going to end up doing, but it is the Netflix show. I feel like it's the show that they're kind of known for now. And I was reading about it because the time of this recording, the new season's been out, I think, about a week now.
A week, yeah, just about.
So apparently it's like was watched by millions of, like, the record-shattering, like, streams of some crazy shit.
It was projected on the side of the fucking Empire State Building last week. Like, it doesn't get any bigger than that.
That's why I'm shocked that they're, like,
literally.
I'm shocked that they're just kind of ending the show after this. This season.
From a standpoint of, like, it's supposed to be about kids, and now these kids have goatees, I can see why they have to end it.
Yeah.
But
they'll be 30 when it ends if they were to continue on.
Right, exactly. These kids are going to be able to, like, you know, vote and drink booze by the time this show ends, and they were all, like, 12 when it started.
I'm pretty sure half of them can vote already, or most of the main younger kids can already. They're all over 18, or at least minimum 18 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
But real quick, what are your thoughts on the show in general? Obviously we're both fans. It's pretty obvious.
Well, like I said, it's my absolute favorite Netflix show. I don't think that they're Netflix does some good stuff, some stinkers, but Stranger Things is just another level. And, like, it came out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
Like, it made these people. I mean, they're, you know, like, obviously Winona Ryder was Winona Ryder before this, and, like, David Harbour I'd seen in tons of movies, but he was never, like, a star. This guy's a fucking A-list star now.
Yeah.
Finn Wolfhard is in every single movie that comes out. Yeah. Like, it's huge. It's massive, and deservedly so. It's a great fucking show.
No, I agree. It's funny because I remember when it came out, I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I watched one episode, and, like, the intro music, when I looked it up, it was from the guys that are in Survive. So I was automatically like, wait a second, the two of the dudes from Survive score this show? And then I watched it on just a whim, and I was like, wow, I fell in love. It's a fucking great show. And you know, I feel like it's one of those shows that I respect that they haven't, like, shit out a season every year. They kind of take their time. Mm-hmm. I think only season 1 and 2 were back-to-back, 16 and 17, 2016, 2017. But they waited a year or two for season 3, and they waited 3 years for season 4, which is fucking wild to think. Right.
Well, I mean, that's obviously, pandemic had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, delaying it.
But, I mean, I think it kind of worked out in their favor, because Season 4 has a lot more of a mature edge to it that the last couple of seasons haven't
Yeah, I agree
necessarily
with
had.
that. Yeah, for
And
sure.
they can kind of lean into some of the more like gruesome horror aspects that they didn't really do with a bunch of little kids.
I feel like the show's always been dark. With the character of 11, it's been
I think
relatively dark.
this season is the darkest for
Oh,
sure.
no,
This is
I
definitely
agree.
they lean big time into horror more so than any of the other seasons before, and I think that worked out because there's a believability to it when these kids are at this formative age that they're supposed to be in the show, that this kind of
They're
horrible
older than
stuff
they're
can happen.
portraying, technically.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But still,
So.
like, we see that horrible shit happens to high school kids in real
Yeah.
fucking life. And it's interesting to see it mirrored in the show.
Nah, for sure.
What'd you think of the new season?
I thought it was good. Real quick, spoiler warning, because this show's going to kind of be broken up into two parts. We're going to talk about our thoughts on the new season, and then a little later we're going to talk about the Halloween episode, because why the fuck not? We're a Halloween show, and I feel like this is the only opportunity we'll kind of dive into that specific episode and be able to talk about some of the cool Halloween shit that's in it. So yeah, spoiler warning if you have not seen or finished, I guess, volume 1 of season 4, because there is going to be...
Skip ahead a bit.
Yeah. There is going to be a volume 2 in like a month. Or at the time of this recording. I think July 1st. They're releasing 2 more... Is it 2 more episodes or 3? I don't even know.
Two feature-length episodes. I think the 9th episode, well, what would be the 9th episode, is like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something.
Which is fucking
the
wild.
Runtime, which is like... that's a movie.
It's 2 movies almost.
The Avengers movie is that long.
Yes. So that's kind of crazy. So yeah, spoiler warning.
Chrissy! Wake up now! Chrissy!
Don't cry, Chrissy. It's time for your suffering to end.
So you asked me, what did I think of season 4? Honestly, dude, I loved it. I have issues with it, and we'll get to that in a bit, but I thought when it comes to the characters growing, and not physically growing, I don't mean like the kids are obvious. One of them is like 6 feet tall now, but like
Lucas, like the kid has a fucking goatee.
He's a grown ass man. He's a grown ass man now. But yeah, like I thought, like seeing the characters kind of grow and evolve over time, specifically the character of Max. I feel like this season 4 is her season. I'd say about 85%. It's her character dealing with what happened in season 3 with her shitty stepbrother, which I got that she had a little sympathy for him and she felt a little shitty about it because he sacrificed himself. But after rewatching that Halloween episode in season 2, I was like, wow, this guy's a piece of shit. He was a dick.
I mean, I guess in the sense of like, it was such a turning point in Max's life to lose Billy, and in such like a big way. Like it affected Max obviously, but it also affected the whole fucking town of Hawkins. So like it is everywhere she goes, she's reminded of that loss, and I think that's more of where the effect comes in. That I mean, I'm sure she loved him, and speaking of Max, that fucking, I think it was episode 4 was
that's the one everyone's saying is their favorite
Max-centric episode. And
it's Dear Billy.
Damn, Dear Billy. The last like 5 minutes of that episode is like absolutely perfect.
Yeah, everyone. I remember like going on Twitter that day when the whole season dropped, and everyone was talking about Dear Billy because of like the Kate Bush song and all that. Right.
Which now like, Kate Bush apparently that song was like
this week. People were discovering the song like they had never heard it before, and I thought that was kind of cool. Shit's like 35 years old. Yeah, which is wild to think how a song like a TV series is able to kind of bring the song back into life. But I mean,
it also shows the popularity and the reach of Stranger Things. You know?
Of course.
Everybody watch the show and then listen to this song.
No, for sure, and that's what's cool. It's kind of it's a phenomenon, just kind of what the show is able to do with music and
I think that's the best way to describe it. The show really is. It's very culturally relevant. It is like the show in pop culture right
Yeah,
now. You know?
yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I think even when Volume 2 drops in a few weeks, the Dear Billy episode's probably still going to be the best one, unless they do some mind-blowing shit in those last 2 episodes, which they might. You never know. Yeah. I still think that might be the main episode that everyone remembers from season 4. What did you think of now? Here's one thing I want to talk about. What did you think of 2 new characters? First, Eddie, the metalhead guy. Did you like? Because I see like some people don't like him and some people do. I feel.
I think he's a fun, interesting character. I think they wove him into the story in a natural way.
Yeah, like
it felt okay to have this new character running around with them because he was just a bystander of the shitty thing that Vecna was doing, and it just so happened that he got caught up in what seems to be a murder plot. So it felt organic in that way for him to like fit in. Again, like going back to that they all are older than they play. The guy, and yes, they justify it by saying like he got held back or whatever.
Like
but
twice.
He looks like a fucking 40-year-old man.
He's like 30 in real life. I know, and it was pretty funny. I got a kick out of that because I was like, wow, this guy. I like that was the joke, is that he was like left behind twice, and he had to he said this is his year to graduate high school or whatever. And I do like how he's an older guy who's kind of playing D&D with them, and he's the leader of the Hellfire Gang, their little new crew that plays Dungeons and Dragons. So
every individual grouping of characters that they had, which is a lot of shows have trouble balancing that when they have such a large ensemble and they like separate the characters to do things. Like The Walking Dead did it for one season and it was fucking terrible. It was just boring plotting episodes, but like it worked out in Stranger Things, like having these characters in all these separate locations while still each new grouping got a new character added to the grouping, you know?
No, for sure. Like, that's the strength of the show, I feel.
What's his name? The goofy friend in California, Argyle. Like, he was another... he's a fun character that got swept up in all of this. Yeah. And then you have the prison guard in the Gulag who is now, like, helping them escape. Like,
he's helping Hopper.
The characters they introduced... Yeah, the characters that they introduced were like organically fitting into the plot, and that speaks to like how well done the show is, you know?
Yeah, I always thought the show was good at telling kind of like 5 stories at once. It is a lot. It's very dense. Yeah. The show is just dense. There's just a lot. Like this person's doing this, this person's going through that. But I thought this season, I guess the long episodes kind of helped with that. Every episode's like an hour and 15 minutes. There's a lot. And it could be a little kind of like a bit much. And you could be a little exhausted after watching one episode because it's like, all right, we're in Russia. We're in what? Are they in California? I think they're in California, right? Yeah. Then back in Hawkins. It's all over the place. And then
also in Colorado, right?
Colorado,
to go visit Dustin's girlfriend.
Yeah.
There was a couple.
Then wherever 11 is, 11's somewhere too.
Yeah.
I forget where
Arizona.
She was. Arizona. Yeah, there you go. So
there was a couple of the 7 that I felt like didn't necessarily justify the long run times, but for the most part, I feel like the run times weren't that much of a concern. 2 hours and 20 minutes though, that's a fucking chore.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I can't wait just to see if they're able to kind of like I can keep my attention for 2.5 hours. Probably, I love the show, so I don't see it being that difficult.
I can't imagine it not. But I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to sit through.
No, for sure.
But you know, when you look at, like you said, the density of the story, it's probably going to serve it well.
And what did you think of? And the other character I wanted to talk about was Argyle. What did you think of? I actually liked Eddie more. Argyle I thought was a little annoying. I'll be honest. Like I didn't think Eddie was as annoying. So
no, Argyle was definitely the more annoying of like the new friends, but he's just like a goof who's there
stoner,
to like be dumb
stoner.
Comedic relief.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It was I do like how Jonathan Byers and him are just like massive potheads now. Where the fuck did that come? Like burnt out.
Bill and Ted, like Cheech and Chong kind of thing. Like
that one scene where they're like at the dinner table or whatever, and they're like high as shit. I was like, this is fucking so weird. It's so fucking odd, but it worked. I was like, okay, it would make sense that he's the kind of like become a massive pothead to deal with, like, I guess Nancy not wanting to be with him.
Right.
And then obviously
right.
his new really close friend's a fucking pothead too, so he's kind of introducing that to him. And it's funny because I think even like 11 in her opening letter or whatever says he's smoking a lot of weird leaves or smelly leaves, she says, which I thought was really funny.
The
like
smelly green leaves or
he's
something.
Obviously a fucking burnout. What'd you think?
All right, so what do you
mm-hmm.
do you think that in one of these next 2 episodes, one of the major characters is going to die? Because they teased it a lot. They teased a lot of different combinations of like, this person could die, this person could die. And I think there's only so many times they can skate by that.
I don't think so. The only person I think that I could see maybe dying is 11 out of the kids. Just like sacrificing herself to kind of defeat the Mind Flayer, because that's who the bad guy is. The big bad is the Mind Flayer.
The big bad, yeah.
It's still him. He's kind
Vecna.
of Vecna and over the Demogorgon, because they explain like the Demogorgon is like a soldier and Vecna's like the general or something like that. And then the Mind Flayer is like the big, big overlord. He's like the what is Sidious, Dark City? That's kind of what he is. It's like Darth Vader is Valak? I always pronounce it Vecna. I always pronounce it wrong. But yeah, I don't think they'll kill any of the kids off. Maybe 11, maybe Joyce, maybe one of the parents.
I want to be wrong, but I feel like they're setting Steve up for a big sacrifice.
Maybe Steve. He did get bit by those
confess his love to Nancy and save her from something and go out like a hero. I would fucking hate it.
Yeah, because he's one of the best characters on the show.
But
he's
I could
evolved,
see that happening.
He's evolved so much. He was a dick the first season, and then through, season 2 on, he's like become like one of the best characters. But seeing him bit by those bats, something is up. I might be overthinking it, maybe not, but I could see that. Maybe him almost dying. I still think I could see 11 dying. I could see herself. I could see like she sacrifices herself to defeat this thing next season. I don't think anyone's dying this season. Maybe Steve. I don't know, but
there's 2 episodes, and then whatever is the last season. So like, I think if they're gonna make some big moves and keep people talking, someone big's got to go. Like they did the Hopper thing, but then like immediately after the Hopper thing, they were like, just kidding, he's not really dead. Like, see you in season 4.
I just think a lot of people will be upset if they kill Steve, but I guess it would make sense.
Me too. I'd be one of them.
Yeah, I guess it would make sense, but I could see Joyce maybe dying, and 11. I don't see any of the other kids dying. In all honesty, I don't see any.
No,
of the
I think
kids,
they'll
like the main group.
The main 4, they'll have a happy ending throughout all of it.
And what'd you think of the Vecna character, though, the villain? Very Freddy Krueger, dude. This whole season, season 4, reminded me of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah.
Like, a T.
Very clearly.
The music.
Very, very
Robert Englund is in a fucking episode.
Yeah. It was... I enjoyed the villain, and I enjoyed the twist of who he is in relation to everything. Spoiler alert, he is number 1.
That's my issue with the show.
Really?
These are my issues with Stranger Things, and I love Stranger Things. And this is a general problem I have. So you have this like Eddie character. Where the fuck was he the last 3 seasons? He went to the high school. Why didn't he ever interact with anybody? Same thing with Robin. Where the fuck was she?
It's a big town, big school.
I guess so. And I feel the same thing about this villain. Where the fuck was he?
So,
you get what I'm saying?
Here's my thing. Yeah, and I've heard other people have the same complaint, and this is how in my head, maybe this is how it's justified. Vecna fought 11 back in whatever year he fought her, like when he first fought her, and she sent them into the Upside Down and kind of essentially created all of this shit. He was basically lying in wait because he knows that 11 is stronger than him and could kick his ass and send him back wherever the hell he came from. So he finally, when 11 lost their powers, could finally start making his moves.
So I guess that's why he was sending the Demogorgon
this stuff is
before
happening.
and all these other characters.
Exactly.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
See, to me, I just thought it was kind of weird. I was like, why? Like, where the fuck has this character been the last 3 seasons up until this season?
Right.
I get it. He's kind of like it's like a video game. You defeat the lower enemies and you're making your way to the big bad. But I was just like, where the fuck was he? Also, 11 wasn't able to talk in the first season. Why was she able to talk in the flashbacks?
So there's
I guess because it was in her mind, technically.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it could be, not a reliable narrator, her mind, because it's been through so much.
Possibly.
But it's also like, how many years does that encounter with Vecna predate season 1? Like,
I think season 1 was 83, so it's only 3 years later. So if I remember correctly.
So then that 3-year stretch of time is like where 11 became like the weird kid from the beginning of season 1,
Yeah. Well,
based on more experiments.
It's also insinuated that he killed Barb. He says he did it. When Nancy's in the Upside Down towards that last episode of Volume 1, she sees like Barb's dead body. And then it's insinuated what he says that he's the one that killed her. So I guess that's
seems kind of like retroactive,
convenient that I was the one that did it. But that was really my only problem. It's like, where the fuck was this guy the last 3 seasons? Like, they were dealing with the Demogorgon, then they were dealing with like that mind flayer that came into our world but was using rats and flesh to kind of create like a puppet and Billy. So I was just like, where the fuck was this guy before? So I just found that a little odd. But the villain himself,
I think, like I said, my thing is I think it was mostly because he knew how strong 11 was, so he was like on the DL.
Yeah, for sure. I get what you're saying. He was kind of just hiding a little bit until she was like, all right, I can make the attack now, which makes sense for like a villain of this story. And he's basically the big villain of season 4, these 2 volumes.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the big bad of these two. And again, the main bad guy's the Mind Flayer. He's still out there somewhere. Even though I feel like this season, he's kind of they're not really mentioning him too much. He's that big spirit, whatever the fuck it is. It's that giant thing. They don't really ever explain what it is. It's just kind of like the overlord of the underworld, or the Upside Down, I should say.
Right. The main one, the one that was like in season 3 was like, I guess like a made up embodiment.
It was him trying to come here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. It trying to come here, because I don't know if it's a him or a her. The thing is trying to come here.
Right.
But specifically this villain, Vecna, very Hellraiser, very Freddy Krueger, the music cues, very intense, brutal way of killing people. Fucking like crushes their bones and shit and makes them float.
Yeah.
And then uses bad memories to kind of flip it on them. So I did like that.
Eyes out.
Oh, really good. I thought they did. I thought that, honestly, phenomenal job, and probably the best villain yet. And I think that's because he's a little more humanoid and weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I will say, I agree with what you said earlier about it being a little more of an intense season. And I think it's specifically because of this villain. Even when I was rewatching the Halloween episode, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, you could see how much more innocent 2 seasons was. 2 seasons ago, the show was to an extent. It was still dark. But this season, it's basically like fucking Pinhead or Freddy is coming to fucking... Yeah, I thought Max was going to die. If you want to talk about that, I thought for a second there.
Satanic panic shit,
which I like. I do like that.
They get into like Eddie. Some real dark stuff, yeah.
The fucking douchey, him too, came out of nowhere. These characters just appear. They were not there previously, and I'm like, where were these people? Well, I guess they're younger than Nancy and Steve.
Right, because the kids weren't in... and the Nancy and Steve stuff, they didn't really always focus on in school for them, like Nancy, Steve, and Jonathan. There was less focus on them being in the school than the main kids.
No, for sure. I get that. So that's just me nitpicking in all honesty.
Yeah. But you gotta, at some point, like, you have to evolve the cast and add new people.
Of course. They do that every season. Like Max came in, and then they've brought, and we're gonna talk about a character in a bit, but that they brought in and killed the same season that everyone fucking liked. So they always, I get it. They always rotate characters, and they bring. I feel like they bring in a character that's lovable, and kill them off. So maybe they'll do that this season.
They did that in season 3 as well with
the Russian guy.
The Russian guy,
with the Slurpee. What the fuck was
Murray's
his name?
little friend? Yeah.
What the fuck was his name?
Anatoly? Was it Anatoly or some shit?
He had some like weird name. I forget. But yeah, him, the Kim, Bob, which we're gonna get to Bob in a second. You know, and then Barb, season 1. So if you think about it, every single season there's these characters that
really
people
has. Every season
like.
has had.
So if they do kill anyone this season, it might be like Argyle or Eddie. Because they introduced
the Russian guy in the prison with Hop, like.
Yeah, I could see him getting axed.
He's made a story of like how he wants to get home to his kid and like
he's actually a good
he's
character,
not a traitor and stuff.
Yeah,
I like his character, but like there's stuff that leads you to believe that they're getting ready to off this guy.
Yeah, they're probably gonna kill him. And on that subject, just to kind of close out our little review here of season 4, the whole Russian thing with Hopper. What did you think about that storyline?
I feel like, okay, so they obviously needed something for them to do.
Yeah.
I do, however, feel like it went a little too haywire.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like the double cross of the double cross with like the guy that they were paying to get Hopper out. It was like, oh, well, guess what?
It was unnecessary.
It was very much, it was extra. It was a lot of extra stuff that it could have just been more focused, you know, Joyce and Murray like rescuing Hopper, not having to go there, and now they're all stuck there. Now they got to fight out of there, and I'm sure, like, I trust that the showrunners have a plan to bring everybody back together in Hawkins, but right now it's the least important plot of the show.
Yeah, see, when I was watching it, because I like Joyce, I like Hopper, I like these characters, but it was a little bit of a slog at time. I just wanted to get back to the kids dealing with this fucking monster.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't, like...
Absolutely.
To me, that's the embodiment of the show. The group of kids...
Yeah.
Trying to defeat some sort of creature. That's what it's been the last 3 seasons. You know what I mean? So this season, I was just kind of like, all right, it's becoming a fucking Rambo rescue mission. You know what I mean?
Like,
so I was just kind of like...
Joyce are great.
Yeah.
But, you know, I could take or leave that storyline.
I was just, every time it went back to it, I was like, all right, hurry this up and get back to the fucking Vecna and the kids and the fucking murders. And, like, that's kind of what I wanted
The Demogorgon Fight Club thing was cool, but, like, not necessary.
Oh, yeah. And they didn't kill that Demogorgon, so obviously he's going to come into play. And I like that they didn't kill him because it took 11 to defeat him in the first season. Yeah. It wasn't like this easy, quick thing, you know, where, like, I thought Hopper was just going to, like, stab him with the spear and he was dead. So, like, I'm glad they kept it because they honestly hyped up that character a lot that first season. So to make him just go out like a jabroni would be ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like,
they have to give you that he's still very much a threat.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'm looking forward to the last two episodes that are going to come out soon.
I can't wait.
Maybe we'll have to jump on here and do a little mini episode, you know, talking about the last two.
See if any of our weird predictions here come true in any way, shape, or form.
If someone died. If one of the kids died, Steve, we're going to come back upset if they kill Steve off.
Listen, if they kill Steve, I'm not watching season 5. I'm telling you right. And it's on here. It's on the podcast. I'm not watching season 5 if they kill Steve.
You heard it here. Chris refuses to watch season 5 of Stranger Things if they kill off Steve Harrington. He does not want to have any of that in his Stranger Things.
Justice for Steve.
Yo, who would you rather them kill off? To not sacrifice Steve.
Anybody. Take anybody.
Yo, kill anybody.
Kill Jonathan. Kill fucking Jonathan.
Damn. Nah. Yeah, you know what? I could kill him off. He's kind of doing...
Kill Jonathan.
He's kind of meh this season, too. I feel like
he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
But he's a good big brother. I'll give him that. He's a good big brother. He takes care of Will. He takes care of 11 when they were there. Like, he's a good big brother, but he's not better than Steve.
Speaking of Will, I'm assuming that the story is going that he's in love with Mike. I'm guessing that's kind of where it's going. I kind of got those vibes, so I'm curious if that's kind of where they go with it. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it.
No, I totally. I mean, that's 100% how I see it.
You notice there's like a map or a roll or something that he keeps like bringing with him. Maybe he's gonna die out of all the kids, and he can tell Mike that he loves him or whatever. Who knows? Who knows? Honestly, it can go. Anyone can be fucking offed on the show in reality. I just don't see it being the kids. To me, I see all of them going on, except for 11, like I said, going on to live happy lives in the 90s, going into the 90s. That'll be the spinoff of Stranger Things. Also, Lucas's little sister Erica did not much this season. It was I was disappointed.
Yeah, she was
great in season 3.
Relief and
she joined up with Robin and Steve, and then in this season
I think like I said, overall I think that the multiple storylines worked, but then there was a little too much going on in some cases where things had to get tossed by the wayside. It's
just a really fun show to watch. Season 4 was fun to watch. Dude, I was able to knock it out in like 2 days because of my excitement. Like, I don't give a shit. Right, it could be a little bloated at times, but I was able to watch the whole fucking thing. Was up till like 2
a.m. watching it the first night, and then finished it on the Saturday.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah, I power through it. And then I'm pissed off at myself that I went through it so quick and I got to wait another month for
I put it on all the time in the background sometimes.
That's what I was just going to say. I go back and put it on all the time. So, like, with that said, we went back to season 2 recently to talk about the only Stranger Things Halloween episode.
The only Stranger Things Halloween episode.
What's wrong with Three Musketeers?
What's wrong with Three Musketeers?
No one watched Three Musketeers. Yeah, it's just nougat.
Oh, just nougat? Just nougat. It is top 3 for me.
Top 3?
Top 3.
Oh, God, give me a break.
Seriously, I could just eat like a whole bowl of nougat, straight up.
Holy shit, you should have seen the look on your faces. And you? Who screams like that? You sound like a little girl.
So yes, the Stranger Things Halloween episode, or special I guess you can say, is titled Trick or Treat Freak. And this was part of Season 2, Episode 2. And this aired, technically it all dropped on the same day because that's that Netflix life, on October 27th, 2017. Dude, when I saw that date, I was like, wow, that was in 2017? Yeah, it feels like this season came out of, but then you realize 3 years had passed between 3 and 4, so
right.
I was
and then
like, that's fucking
you're looking
wild.
at these kids, and they are literal children in this episode.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Now, before I jump into this episode, I do want to say that I remember being so hyped when they announced season 2 because I saw it was going to be released in October. And it was going to have a Halloween episode. Like when they released like the title trailer only where you see the names of the episodes, the titles of the episode, the chapters. I was like, wow, that's fucking perfect. That's right up my alley. Like I was like, you can't fucking beat that. So I was so fucking hyped to hear that Stranger Things is just going to have be set on Halloween. Now, I'll be honest with our little breakdown of this episode. We're not going to go in depth on what happens too much. I have a quick little breakdown and you can help me with what happens in this episode because obviously Stranger Things is better watched as a whole because all the stories they bleed into each other. Even this episode, Trick or Treat Freak, the following episode, it's Halloween, the end of Halloween.
The morning, right?
It's this episode it's the ends night and then the next day on the first. So,
essentially a cliffhanger for all intents and purposes if you're not watching the entire story.
So we're not going to go too into every nook and cranny of this episode because it'd be way too fucking much to break down. So, and you can help me out. But to do a quick little breakdown of what happens in this episode, basically you've got 11. We find out how she survived defeating the Demogorgon. She ended up in the Upside Down. We see what she's been doing, basically hiding in the woods because she knows that the government, Hawkins Laboratories, looking for her. Hopper finds her. He's keeping her hidden in a cabin in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And she's upset with him because she wants to have a life and do stuff. And she wants to see Mike and her friends. But she can't because the bad men want her. You know,
Yeah.
again, it bounces around between all the storylines, but that's kind of the main storyline of this
that's the gist
episode.
of it, yeah.
But that's a running thing
this
of the whole
was
season.
It was the first episode of season 2 where they showed 11. She wasn't in the first
No,
episode
she
of
wasn't.
season 2 at all.
No. So you
this
see
was
what
like-
happens. And she's one of the main characters.
Right.
So that's cool.
Coming off of the end of season 1 and like seeing the fallout of what happened to her.
Yeah.
This was a big episode for that.
For sure. And I feel like season 2 is 11 season. Every season's 11 season. But this one, you kind of see her surviving in the woods and eating squirrels and stealing
becomes a
jackets
much more
off of people.
Fully featured character. Like,
Yeah.
you know, she was just the girl with the psychic powers in the first one with the shaved head.
Yeah.
And like in season 2, she learns to become a child again. And that's really the driving factor of season 2 for her arc.
And it develops, and you see the relationship Hopper and her have. That's kind of the other thing that's growing in this episode. And the entire season 2 is that. So we're not going to get into it because the entire season is their relationship, them fighting ups and downs in him being basically her father, you know? And that's kind of what, and they're kind of the issues they have with him being so protective of her. You know, so it kind of makes. Then we learn because we learned about Hopper in the first season that he had a daughter that died of cancer. So there's a lot of moving parts with the two characters kind of being a little family now, a new family.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, you're in the second season of a show at this point, and this is where you start to kind of get more of who the characters are. Yeah, because like, you know, you get what the characters are for the first season, but it's finite in the sense that like nobody knew if there was going to be a second season, so they had to base it on strictly what was in the first season. And now that they have the opportunity to continue crafting these characters and fully realizing them, that's when they get deeper and better. And then like you also find out in this episode that Joyce and Hopper went to school together. Like you kind of knew that they've known each other for years, but then you find out you find out little details that like they've been friends since they were kids, and now like they're, you know, reminiscing on like their Halloweens and stuff like that.
All of season 2 is basically it's the aftermath of what happened in season 1, and everyone kind of dealing with it, because you've also got Nancy and Steve, their dilemma, their drama, because Barb died, and no one told Barb's family what really happened to her, because obviously it's a government laboratory conspiracy with the Demogorgon and the Upside Down, so they don't want anyone to know, and she's feeling guilt, so there's a lot of that in the episode. Then you have Will dealing with the aftermath and like the 1-year anniversary of him being taken by the Upside Down and the Mind Flayer and being possessed. I will say, like,
season 2 for Will, it was like the first season that he really was a character, because I mean he's missing for 2/3 of the first season. You know,
they think he's dead.
So like it's it's really when Will starts to actually become a character in the group. Like he's in the first episode of the first season, and then like he's in the last couple, but he's not really like there. You know. Yeah. So for it really like progresses his arc past season 1, and like I think there's just a lot of like funny little stuff that all the characters do, and it starts to kind of show their like characteristics a little bit better in this episode.
They're more at this point. I feel like the actors were comfortable with these characters, so they kind of knew where to take them. And the Duffer Brothers, the guys who created Stranger Things, I felt like they kind of knew where they were going to take these characters, so they had a better idea of what they wanted to do. And in this season and in this episode specifically, you really see that, because this is so early into the season where you're seeing the aftermath of what happened in the first season and how it affected each one of them, how Joyce is paranoid that Will's going to go missing again. And he's just like, I'm taking a pee, and he just went to the bathroom, and his mom is like freaking out.
Very helicopter mom, yeah.
Yeah, like
but also trying to like live her life now with her brand spanking new boyfriend,
Bob, Sean Astin. Is it Sean Astin, right? Yeah,
Bob, Sean Astin. Gosh, what a great addition to the show. Yeah. And this was like, it was also that time where the show had become the huge hit that it was, and it was like, hey, guess what? This show's based in the 80s, and now we're gonna get
one of the Goonies
who were huge in the 80s. And like he was the first one of that like trope on the show, you know, like before Robert Englund in season 4, and like
yeah, for sure.
He was the first like 80s guy to come on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Matthew Modine was there from the beginning, but like
Paul
was,
Reiser
like,
too.
the
This
big
was like the
thing.
first
Paul
season.
Reiser, right?
Paul Reiser was.
It's like the big thing that they're like
Sean Astin,
80s
yeah.
people in the show. Yeah.
So it's I agree. It's just cool to see these characters kind of evolve, you know, and again, like I said when we were talking about season 4, the new season, and they're constantly evolving even now, which is crazy to think that these characters are still dealing with this shit 4 seasons later. So that's the wild fucking thing. But yeah, let's jump into some more of the Halloween elements of the show, like of this specific episode, I should say, because there's a lot to it that I like that's Halloween centric, and that's why I wanted like an excuse for us to kind of talk about it.
And there's like fun stuff that isn't necessarily, I mean, it's Halloween based, but like there's fun in it that is at the characters' expenses too.
Oh no, like. for sure. I have a whole list here basically of stuff that's Halloween related in the episode that I loved. One of the first things I think is great, and it's a nod to E.T., is Eleven wanting to go trick-or-treating and fighting with Hopper, but she chooses to dress up as a ghost, like an old school classic ghost with the eye holes in a sheet. And she's telling Hopper, like, no one will know it's me. Can I go trick-or-treating? And in E.T.
He goes, Jesus. And she goes, no, ghost.
Yeah. That is good. Ghost. She just wants to, because she still can't speak that well. They're still kind of playing that in this season. They're still playing it now, which is kind of crazy. In season 4, that she still has like a speech impediment, can't spell words and stuff. But yeah, I just thought it was great. And it's obviously, again, a nod to E.T. because that's how they hide E.T. to get him to the woods to phone home, and they pretend that it's Drew Barrymore, their little sister. I don't know if you remember that,
right?
In E.T. So I just thought that was obviously a nod to that, but Hopper completely kind of was like, "No, you're not going," and you know, and him just making a promise, like, "Look, compromise. We'll watch horror movies and eat candy." Like, he was still trying to have her celebrate Halloween, which I can appreciate, even though she couldn't go trick-or-treating. And I really do think Eleven just wanted to go trick-or-treating in hopes that she would bump into Mike and her friends. That's really probably the reason she wanted to do that. But I just like that look. And it's a classic ghost, you know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
Nothing screams Halloween more than that, you know, to me at least. I feel like that's it's a good choice.
Speaking of screams, the scene where Max surprises the guys in her Michael Myers
which is
costume.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect costume, and scares the shit out of them. And it's Lucas, right? Lucas screams like a girl.
Yeah, and she makes fun of him about it, you know? So I do like that. I do like how they snuck a Michael Myers into this movie. Like, to this episode, I should say. Like, because who else is fucking Halloween? Who's the most notorious Halloween fucking character?
He is Halloween.
He is fucking Halloween. And I like that this is the first season. I don't know if we mentioned it, but Max was introduced in season 2. So this is like the boys still feeling her out and seeing if she can be part of their gang and part of their crew.
Yeah.
And I think Lucas and her end up having a little relationship. Like, he has a crush on her. Like, she was a great addition to the show. The character of Max, I feel like, has really grown on me.
Absolutely.
I think about this season, I was like, oh, it was whatever, just another kid. But I feel like throughout the seasons, leading up to season 4 now, she's really grown on me as a character. I think she's like as an actress, she's just been really good.
I was just gonna say Sadie Sink is like a great actress.
Yeah, she'll be doing bigger things as she gets older, I'm sure, and after the show ends.
For sure.
But going back to the Michael Myers costume, I do like that. Like, a little girl wanted to dress up as Michael Myers. It's fucking awesome. And it's funny because it made me think, because when I was a kid, there was no screen accurate looking Michael Myers mask like she has. So that was kind of a little a flub on their part. They had
right. Well, I mean, movie magic, you know.
Movie magic.
Yeah, I don't remember. One looking
especially
that
in
good.
1984. I can't imagine her having that screen accurate. Because I remember dressing up as Michael Myers in like 1993 or something like that, and I had like that shitty, I think it was Don Post, all white brown hair, like brown like eyebrow mask with the slit in the mouth. It looked like shit. So I was like, wait a second. If they wanted to be a little more authentic, they could have given Max that mask. And she even had a jumpsuit that fit her. I remember there were no kitty over coveralls
like that.
Yeah, there were no kitty overalls in the 80s. I remember being a kid and I had to wear like a button-down shirt that was oversized to mimic coveralls because
blue shirt, blue pants kind of thing.
Yeah, like you could not find that as a kid. But nonetheless, I appreciate them dressing up Max as Michael Myers. Just, you gotta have a Michael Myers in something Halloween related. Speaking of which, off of that, the whole trick-or-treat scene is great. I love that trick-or-treat scene. Just them trick-or-treating, them talking about the Three Musketeers and how Dustin likes Three Musketeers because he loves nougat. And they're kind of shitting on him, telling him that Three Musketeers is garbage. And I just love that whole scene, the way it's set up. It feels Halloween. I thought they did a great job. The Duffer Brothers did direct this episode and wrote it. Yeah. I thought they did a fantastic job capturing that magic of Halloween, of the holiday, of an October night. It looks like it's chilly. People are wearing jackets. All the leaves are changing. You see a lot of orange leaves. So I thought that specific scene, and even Will sees other trick-or-treaters, and that's where the title of this episode comes. He sees a guy dressed up as Jason. A very screen accurate Jason, I might add, and like a werewolf.
Yeah, these kids had some sick costumes.
Yeah, and I think the werewolf or the Jason says like trick or treat freak to him, and that's where the title of this episode comes from. Which I appreciate how they were able to add that little detail into it, just to explain why the episode's called that, and I really like that. But yeah, that whole trick or treating scene, I thought they did a fantastic job in just the execution of that. One more thing I want to talk about, but I don't want to go into great detail because I actually talked about this in a previous episode of ours. Dave and I talked about our favorite Halloween costumes from a TV series or film, and I chose the boys their Ghostbusters costumes. And I don't want to be redundant, so I don't want to get into it, but I'm sure you appreciated that. Them wearing...
I love them. I absolutely love them. When I was growing up, I remember like the colors of the Ghostbusters costumes would always be off of like what the official jumpers looked like. And I guess that was more in line with like the Ghostbusters cartoon and all the toys and stuff, but I never remember them looking like that good. And granted, they're supposed to be like, they made them themselves, but they're not homemade. They're like Hollywood quality jumpers that these kids found. But it's cool. I loved it.
Yeah, for sure. I like the little trap that Dustin made that like opens up when he like hits a button or something like that. So again, I don't want to go too into it because I already kind of in our previous episode go listen to that one. I think it's favorite Halloween costumes from a TV series or movie,
right?
And that was one of my picks. And we mentioned him earlier, but I think we should show a little love to Bob. Bob's corny ass Dracula costume.
Looked like my costume in Help Me.
Oh God, no one's gonna get that reference, but okay. I do like how he's like they made him like a typical dad too. Like he's got the dad joke, like hope it doesn't suck. Like that's like the whole thing with him with the fangs. Dude, I still say killing off the character of Bob was probably the worst thing. I feel like he could have held on another season or two. Like having him on the show, kind of dealing with the shit. Like imagine him in Russia with like Joyce or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, like what's like the other guy's name? Murray. Quality?
Is it Murray?
Yeah, his like everyman.
Is it Murray? The bald.
Been fun to see.
What's his name?
Yeah,
is
Murray.
His name Murray?
Murray.
Yeah, it's like him. I'm surprised he's lasted this long. In all honesty,
I know. Well, he's a black belt in karate now.
So apparently, but yeah, Bob, man, they should have kept Bob, and he's great in this in this episode. He just wants to be a good like stepdad, even though he's technically not married to Joyce, and he's like getting in the spirit of Halloween. I love all the shots of the VHS camcorder that he lends Will to go trick-or-treating, and he's filming, and you see it says October 31st, 1984. Like, just those small details, and that all has to do with the character of Bob, like his introduction to the show and how, involved he is with the kids' lives. And later on in the rest of the season, he's really vital because he knows how to solve puzzles and shit, and like he helps her with the drawings that Will creates. So
he gives them enough time to escape too when he gets
when he bites it.
Taken by the demi-dogs.
Yeah. But yeah, I just love that he's dressed up as like a homemade Dracula, like the laziest attempt at like a Dracula
grease
costume,
paint, and
it's great. It's fucking awesome. One more thing that I feel is a really small detail, but I appreciated about this episode, which makes it really Halloween, is the whole rotten pumpkin patches. Great little touch.
Yeah.
What is it? The upside, if I remember correctly, it's like there's like a door to the upside down there or something. The upside down is merging with Hawkins or some shit.
Right,
and it's making all the pumpkins rot in all the farms, which was fucking great. It just visually, it looks great. Just like coming from like a Halloween aesthetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which also, like, in the later seasons, we know is more of a thing with, like, so if you watch it now, going back to that episode, you're like, oh, maybe there was a door to the upside down there, and that's why it was rotting.
I think there is a door there.
They talked a lot about the door stuff now.
I think because again, I haven't watched season 2 in its entirety in a while, but I'm pretty sure, I think Hopper ends up in the upside down through a door that's in one of the pumpkin patches later.
Is it? I'm going to have to go back.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I think it's Hopper, ends up in the upside down because there is like a gateway or a doorway to that universe in one of those pumpkin patches. But again, just the use of the pumpkin patch, tying it back to Halloween. I remember the poster, one of the posters for Stranger Things season 2 had, I think, the characters or Hopper in that rotten pumpkin patch, and it was just visually, the aesthetic of that just looked great, you know, and it fit the fall, autumn vibes, and everything about it was just really perfect. And I will say too, the Halloween party that Steve and Nancy go to, kind of cool. You know, it's kind of generic. I'm not gonna front. I feel like they could have done a better job with it. You know, what did you think of that?
I never went to a high school Halloween party like that.
I think I did. But not like that. That's like a movie Halloween party, dude. That's not
right. Yeah, that's like a movie
completely
party,
fake. What were they supposed to be dressed as? Is that Risky Business? Is Tom? What? I freak. Like
yeah,
what were they?
yeah.
Is that what it is? Steve and Nancy. I think I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I'll be honest with you. I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan, so I might be fucking completely wrong. So maybe that's what it is. But I just thought the Halloween party was cool. It was cool, and I like how they use it to tie in. Like Jonathan goes, and he has that line, "I'm a guy that doesn't like parties," because the one girl that's dressed up like Susie from Susie and the Banshees is like, "Oh, what are you dressed up as?" And he's like, "Oh, just a dude that doesn't like parties." So just a lot of stuff going on at the Halloween party. Billy's there being a douche, beer chugging or whatever through a keg. And like everyone's at this Halloween party. Seeing the costumes, I appreciate it. And the episode overall, I feel, does a decent job with the Halloween decorations, I should say. I feel like overall, like they captured the autumn vibe well, like just the color, like you can tell whoever did like the color grading and the colorist of the episode added a lot of like a lot of fall gold and browns and stuff like that, yellows to kind of give it that vibe, in the trees. But even the school's decorated. You know, I love when they go to the school and no one's dressed up. The boys are dressed up as their Ghostbusters.
Oh shit, we're the only ones in costume.
And they're the only ones, kind of showing that they're growing up. And that, you know, at a certain point in life, you know, people that aren't like, you know, us that love Halloween do stop dressing up. They see it as like a kid thing. You know, obviously
dorks.
People like us continue to dress up every year. You know,
bunch of dorks. Too cool for school. Get out of here.
Too cool for school. We can't dress up anymore. But I do like how they showed that, where it was like their worst nightmare. It's almost like going to school naked, that dream. But they're the only ones. It was
very much like that thing, like oh my god, we're gonna be the uncoolest kids here now because of this. Yeah, it just shows kind of, you know, what it's like to be a kid and loving Halloween, because even in the episode the kids are like, this is the greatest day ever, we love Halloween, this is my favorite time of the year. Mike is being a little dramatic in that one scene with Will, and he's like, you invited Max, you ruined the best night of the year. So like obviously these boys love Halloween, and it's a really important holiday to them. So I just dug that. I dug how they were able to kind of tie it all in with their costumes and school, and I feel, just to kind of give the overall episode, just kind of to tie it into the holiday, I thought they did a good job weaving in the storylines
with the holiday. They were able to weave it in pretty seamlessly, I feel. Kind of injecting Halloween into what already is an ongoing story. Because again, we've said it a bunch of times, I'm pretty sure, that Stranger Things is so dense. There's usually like 5 stories going on at once that are all interwoven. Yeah. But they were able to use the holiday of Halloween and kind of utilize it to the best of their ability in telling a small part of this story in this one contained episode. I also like that they used the Monster Mash, which is a very stereotypical Halloween song up until this point, but you don't have a Halloween episode if you don't have,
you have to have it.
The Monster Mash somewhere in there. And they also end it using the Ghostbusters theme, where Dustin's like, oh, what? Like, oh, shit, or something, and it cuts. And then it cuts to the Ghostbusters theme, and you hear the Ghostbusters theme earlier. And it's obviously showing how much of an impact Ghostbusters made in 1984 and how much it affected pop culture and how everyone just loved it. And even now, in the new season, you see Dustin has a Ghostbusters pin on his backpack. Yeah. So it's even continuing now into the new season that these boys love Ghostbusters, and that's just fucking awesome. So real quick, what's one of your favorite things about this episode? You have to choose something. What's your favorite thing about it?
I like I said before, I love the scene where Max scares the shit out of them. I think it's like the perfect encapsulation of like how much these kids are still kids, but also like within this realm of Halloween, they relish this thing, and Max relishes the ability to be able to scare the shit out of a bunch of new guys that she's trying to be friends with. I thought it's the most fun scene in the episode, I think.
And I love how they never say Michael Myers, if I remember correctly. They're never like, oh, you dressed up as Michael Myers. They never say it. She's just obviously Michael Myers. So it's weird. I wonder why they didn't ever like even make reference to that's who she's dressed up as. I guess maybe they don't want to say the name outright. Like, oh, Michael Myers? Okay. Maybe the boys didn't know who that was because they're so young.
Right. They could not have seen that movie. What about you? What is your favorite part?
I was going to say my favorite thing, I'm going to kind of cheat. It's a little bit of each. 2 things. I love the Rotten Pumpkins. I just love the use of the Rotten Pumpkins. And Bob, man. I just love that corny-ass costume. His corny-ass Dracula costume and him dancing with Joyce to music, still dressed up as Dracula. And just his, like, hope it doesn't suck. Like, I just thought that was, like, it was, like, adorable. Like, it was great. Like, his character, again, they should have never killed him off, man. Fucking great. One of my, honestly, if I ever had to do a top 5 Stranger Things characters, Bob is 100% on that list.
Did you agree to this? What? To her. Joining our party. It's just for Halloween. You should have checked with me. Well, they were excited. I guess I thought you'd be okay with it. She's ruining the best night of the year.
What's something you didn't like? If there's one thing about this episode, this Halloween episode, if there's one thing about Trick or Treat Freak you didn't like, what would it be?
If I had to pick, I guess the melodrama of the Nancy and Steve stuff is probably the bottom of my list of stuff. Like it's fine, but
it's plot. It's plot moving along. Yeah. And that's kind of the biggest problem with I like again. You can't treat this as a standalone episode. It's impossible.
Right. It's a lot harder to do that.
Yeah, and that'll go into something we're going to answer in a second, but you can't treat it as that because of the storyline that's constant through these 9 episodes. It's constantly just, each episode bleeds into the other. So I totally get what you're saying about the kind of melodrama between the two of them and just how they're gonna break up and all this stuff. It kind of brings the episode
she's like,
down.
But that's the point. She's like, "You're bullshit," and she's like drunk, and it's very like.
But if you think about it, at that point, in reality, Halloween is just a backdrop, so it doesn't really affect the Halloween atmosphere. But that I would have to agree. Her being drunk was a little obnoxious, but that's the character. At this point, that's just kind of what can you do? That's what she is, and that's what the show is, and that's kind of where they were going at that point. Unfortunately, it's in the Halloween episode. That's where they were going with the Nancy character. That's what they were doing. So I agree. That's probably my least favorite thing too about it. The only other thing I could probably say is I wish there was maybe, like when Eleven's watching TV, maybe more horror movies because that would be more realistic. She watches like The Terminator at one point. Like she's watching Frankenstein at one point, which was cool. That fit perfectly. But like The Terminator pops up and some other generic stuff. They should have played like horror movies, and maybe she was kind of like exposing herself to like cool horror films or something because it's Halloween. I think that's maybe my other one small nitpick when it comes to this episode of something that was my least favorite thing about it. But very small little thing right there.
Not detrimental to the show.
Not detrimental to the Halloween. I think I thought they executed it. I'd say 90%. I thought they did a fantastic job fucking representing the holiday in this specific episode. Let's answer these 3 questions and see if this episode, Trick or Treat Freak, fits into them. Is this a good Halloween episode?
I'd say yeah.
I agree. It is. I thought they did a fantastic job. Is there good Halloween atmosphere?
You said it before. The rotting pumpkins
and the trick or treating.
It works.
They did it, and the
awesome.
Monster Mash playing and just kind of the atmosphere to it. I do think, again, I thought it oozes Halloween atmosphere.
Yeah.
And just them just walking down those streets and seeing all the trick or treaters. Everything was perfect. Everything was well done. The set design was perfect, and just everything about it kind of worked.
It looks like what you expect Halloween to look like.
Yes.
Like
especially in a movie
the kids
or a show,
trick-or-treating.
I should say. Something fictional. Yeah. Like, there's 100 trick-or-treaters on the street and every house is decorated. The most fictional town ever, but it works. And I thought they did a fantastic job with the atmosphere in this episode. And here's the last one to kind of close it up, and we'll wrap up here. Should you watch it during the Halloween season?
I have and will again. So absolutely yes.
You might be surprised by my answer, but I don't think you could put this on the Halloween rotation. And here's why. You need to watch the rest of the season.
All right.
To kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah.
In comparing it to Roseanne or a lot of other TV shows or even X-Files.
Like a Treehouse of Horror kind of
stuff like
thing,
that, where it's self-contained. It's not. And I think, and Halloween bleeds into the episode before this and the episode after this.
I was just going to say, you got to go buffer on each side. Yeah.
Yes. So, you can't just put this on October 15th. It's Friday night. I want to watch something Halloween-y. No, I don't think this is one you can put on because you kind of have to watch the whole season for it to really work. You know what I mean? Maybe you could have it on in the background because it's Halloween.
I've watched the show multiple times fully through beginning to end. So there's been times where during the Halloween season, I've just put this episode on. But if you're not as versed and you just want to watch a Halloween episode, like you said, you can't just watch this.
I don't think this would be a go-to. You know what I want to watch? Trick or Treat Freak. Season 2, episode 2 of Stranger Things. I don't think that really... I just don't think it works personally. But it doesn't make me not love the show any less. And it doesn't make me... I appreciate that they have basically a first half of the season is Halloween and in the fall. So I love that, of course. You know what I mean? And I'm glad we could talk about it on the podcast because I was this was kind of the best time since there's a new season to talk about this episode. And just kind of the overall, because honestly, they're never going to do another Halloween episode. I don't think they will. Yeah. Maybe next season they'll surprise us, season 5, and there'll be a surprise Halloween episode. But I don't think they're going to. They kind of already been there, done that. So I can't see them revisiting the holiday, that holiday again. Unfortunately, as much as I would love. I honestly wish this entire season was set on Halloween or around leading up to Halloween would have been perfect. But I gotta take, I gotta take what I'm given. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate that there's one Halloween episode, one episode of Stranger Things set on Halloween. So you have any closing thoughts on Trick or Treat Freak, Chris? Anything?
No, I wish that Stranger Things could fit in another Halloween episode, but like you said, I don't think we're going to get one. So if this is the only Stranger Things Halloween themed episode, I enjoy it. I like it.
Yeah, I agree. It's they did a fantastic job. It's got a lot of what you love about Stranger Things. It's got a lot of what you love about Halloween. And if you've never seen Stranger Things and for some reason you're listening to this episode of the Haunted Hangover podcast where we kind of spoiled basically everything about the show, and you just want to see, maybe you want to see what the show's about for whatever reason, and you want to start hey Louie, what's a good episode you'd recommend for me to check out of Stranger Things and like get a taste of it. I'd probably recommend people to check out Trick or Treat Freak just to kind of see if they dig the show or not. You're gonna be completely fucking lost. You're not gonna know what these characters are doing or where they are. But I'd say it's a good kind of appetizer to someone that's new to the show and they just want to see what it's like. And if you love Halloween, I think it fits perfectly with all other Halloween episodes, except for the fact that you have to be a fan of the show and watch the rest of it to fully appreciate what happens.
Aside from that little
in the
thing.
episode, for sure.
Watch it, zombie boy. Trick or treat freak.
So that was Stranger Things, Trick or Treat Freak. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Haunted Hangover, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Haunted Hangover 31.
And if you could rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated.
And remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Catch you guys later.